Okay, we're here with Rita, and we're going to be talking about graphing proportions, rates, and slope. You ready to talk about these things?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about them in kind of three forms: in a table, on a graph, and with an equation. And these things, a proportion is a particular kind of a relationship between two quantities like x and y, and it's very related to things that you know about like rates and slope. And we're going to try to tie all those things together here, okay?
Okay.
So let's start over here with a table. I'm going to have some x values and some y values, and then I'm also going to calculate what y divided by x is. So let's ignore this column for just a second, though. Let's say you had this relationship where x equals 1, y equals 3. X equals 2, y equals 6. So there's a pattern here. X is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And y is going 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Do you see a pattern in both of those columns?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see that there's, when you have x, you multiply it by something to get y. What is that number that you're multiplying by to get y?
3.
Yep. So you can say 4 times 3 is 12, 5 times 3 is 15, 1 times 3 is 3. Another way to say that, now we'll look at this third column, is that if you take y and divide it by x, it's this constant number here. It's always 3. So 3 divided by 1, 3. 6 divided by 2, 3. 9 divided by 3, 3. Okay? That's a particular kind of a relationship, and it's called a proportional relationship. Okay?
Okay.
So keep that in mind as we start to look at a graph of this exact same proportional relationship. So here we have two of those points graphed. We have the point 1, 3, that's this one right here, and then we have the point 2, 6, that's this one right here. We could even fit on this same graph the point 3, and what would that be up here for the y value?
9.
Good, yeah, 3, 9 is right here. And you can see that all of those points would be along a straight line. So that's something really interesting. When you have a proportional relationship, it's all on a straight line. Very interesting, okay? Also, where does that line go through? It goes through the origin, or the 0, 0 point here. Okay, also really, that's something about a proportional relationship you'd want to know. Okay, now, so we have to have it in a table, we have it in a graph. Another great way to do this is to write it in an equation. So we already know that there's this idea that y divided by x is always the same number. In this case, it's 3. So when we write it over here, we can say y divided by x is a constant. It's always the same number. And a lot of times in math, when you have something that's a constant, it's always the same number. You use the letter k. Okay?
Okay.
And we could solve this for y by multiplying both sides by x, so it would cancel out the x here. And we could see that that's the same thing as y equals k times x. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the equation for a proportional relationship. You could say that y equals 3x. So 6 equals 3 times 2. Good. 9 equals 3 times 3. Good. So this is just another way of expressing the same stuff that we had over here. And another way that we sometimes write it when we're talking about lines is we change that k to an m. And that m is the slope of the line. And it tells us how steep the line is and what direction it's going. Okay? So these things are all kind of related to one another. So don't get confused that there's different ways to talk about it, because they're all kind of saying the same story about a straight line. So let's talk about a few things here, some observations. First of all, like we said, when you graph a proportional relationship, it's a straight line. Secondly, it goes through the origin. And then third, the bigger that k number or the m number, the steeper the line. So if we only had y equals 2x, then one point would be 1, 2, another point would be 2, 4, another point would be 3, 6. It would be not as steep as this line. But if we had like y equals 10x, where the k or the m is bigger, then the first point would be 110. It would be way up here, and we'd have a super steep line, right?
Right.
So that's the steepness of the line. That's called the slope, and it's all based on how big that number m or k is. Okay?
Okay.
Now, a few other things here. Here's some words that you'll have to use when you're talking about this thing, and they all are pretty much related to the same exact thing. So this is just for you to know that these are very similar. First of all, if you're using the k, that's called the constant of proportionality. Big words, all it does is when you take y divided by x in a proportional relationship, what number is it? It's always going to be some sort of constant number. That's just called the constant of proportionality. Okay? If you're talking instead about a line, Same number as the constant of proportionality, but now we're going to call it the slope, and we're going to use the word m instead. And then the final thing is if you're talking about rates, like how fast something is going, a lot of times that also can look like a line. And the rate, instead of talking about the slope or the constant of proportionality, the same number, that slope, is called the unit rate. And it's the amount that y changes when x increases by 1. So here, x goes from 0 to 1, y changes 3. X goes from 1 to 2, y changes 3 more. It's the same exact number. See how all of these are interrelated?
Yeah.
Okay, you're good to go.